Hello Internet, my name is the Golden Stalfos, and today we're going to talk about the very first arc in Dragon Ball, the Emperor Pilaf arc. Now, it's a little bit weird talking about this because, one, a surprising number of people in North America just never watched the original Dragon Ball because they only saw Z on Toonami, and that's where their journey started. But I would argue that the original Dragon Ball has a lot of merit that kind of disappears as the series goes on, especially if you're an anime only fan. The simple fact is that even though Dragon Ball was the most profitable property around, Toei just doesn't give a shit. And the longer the show went on, the less effort they put into it, and it's so bad. That said, while the original Dragon Ball anime may have been dramatically slowed down to fit into Toei's ridiculous schedule, it still actually had some really decent animation, and they weren't able to cut corners on fights by just showing flashing lights for 3 minutes and cutting to reaction shots. Plus, the theme song, especially the English theme song, is a fucking banger. Oh my god. And actually, the ending theme is pretty good too. So, if you're one of those people who hasn't seen it, consider this a huge recommendation. Please go watch the original Dragon Ball. But be warned, it is dramatically better than what you get in most of Z and basically all of Super and GT. And so, it might taint your vision of what comes later. Now, that said, what is it that makes early Dragon Ball so much better than later Dragon Ball? The first thing that really strikes me is that early Dragon Ball plays a lot more to Toriyama's strengths as a writer. It's much more comedic and fun. Like you just see Goku going on an adventure and doing silly things and learning about the world, and you're just having fun. You just have fun with it. Part of this may come down to the series' roots as a parody manga, and part of it probably comes from the fact that this is Toriyama coming right off the heels of Aurelia and Dr. Slump, which, is all comedy. And once he starts trying to mix in some serious elements, he's still doing the humor because that's what he's used to. And when watching early Dragon Ball, you will have a lot of genuine laugh-out-loud moments, although you'll also have a lot of cringe moments because this is Toriyama and he does for some reason think that haha, this character is a pervert, haha is a joke that he can just reuse infinitely, and does reuse infinitely, and boy howdy does it get fucking old fucking fast. I mean, first of all, pointing and laughing at something that is clearly problematic and bad isn't funny, and it's not a joke. Like, a joke requires a setup and a punchline. You have to have a build and then a payoff, and then usually there's a twist in the middle to get to the payoff. But when you just point at a dumb gag and then laugh, that's not a joke. It's just not a joke. It lacks any of the structural elements of a joke. I'm not saying you can't use sex or perversion as a template to make a joke, but that's not what Toriyama does. He just has a character who is a pervert and then expects us to laugh at that, and it's because they're being a pervert. That's not a joke. But other than that, basically everything does land as a joke, and even some of the things that are built as pervert gags do end up being kind of funny after the full context of the story. Toward the end of the Pilaf arc, there's this section where Bulma ends up having to change clothes in Oolong's RV thing, and the only replacement outfit he has is a bunny girl outfit because he's a pervert. Haha. However, that leads into the central conflict of the following episode, where Bulma being dressed like a bunny makes her kind of get on the bad side of this gang that's bunny themed, and also allows Toriyama to make another famous scene from A Journey to the West into a big parody moment, which is the whole point of the manga. So even the more funny moments of the story can lead into important plot points and continuing threads. We actually see this kind of right from the very beginning. The reason Bulma wants to collect the Dragon Balls is because she wants to wish for a boyfriend, which is absurd because she could just find a boyfriend. I mean, it's not like she has any obvious social issues. She's rich, she's fairly attractive, she's of an age to go to school, so presumably she does go to school and would have opportunities to meet people there. So the fact that she's embarking on a quest she's not at all prepared for and going across the world to collect these mystic items for something so trivial that she could definitely do on her own anyway is kind of funny. It's also kind of funny that we run into the perfect answer to that wish without her having to wish for it. Of course, in the form of Yamcha, who lives in the desert as a bandit because he's so scared of talking to women that he just can't integrate into society. And of course, he wants to use the Dragon Ball so that he can wish for a girlfriend. And as they get tangled up in this quest together, well, you end up killing two birds with no stones because the Dragon Balls get used for something else. At the same time, the thing the Dragon Balls are supposed to be used for, according to Pilaf, is this grand wish to rule the world, but the world is saved from that by Oolong just wishing for something equally ridiculous, actually probably more ridiculous than a boyfriend or a girlfriend, which is women's underwear? Question mark? But while the story is able to weave comedy in and out of its narrative and often uses comedy both for jokes and for important moments, it's also clearly true that the story isn't afraid to get serious. At the climax of the arc, Goku and crew are trapped in a glass box waiting to be boiled alive by the sun, and then it's revealed to us that Goku not only has the ability to turn into a giant monster and get them out of this situation, but also that he is responsible for his own grandfather's death. And the other characters make it a serious effort to not let him know that fact because it would crush him. And I think Toriyama just kind of forgets about this because Goku does eventually learn about the whole thing with his tail, and he isn't crushed by the realization that he murdered his grandpa. In fact, Goku eventually meets his dead grandpa, and the fact of how he was killed is not brought up, which is just such a weird missed opportunity, but okay. However, that's for a later arc. Right now we're just talking about the stuff that happens with Emperor Pilaf. And in this arc, at least, narrative and humor and darkness are all woven together in a way that's quite frankly genius. And I think the balance between these disparate elements is lost more and more as the series goes on and becomes more and more focused on, ooh, big tough guy, big punch, ooh. Because while that is very entertaining in its own way, it really isn't satisfying in the same way as this creative blend of humor and narrative and dark story elements. And it's not just the finale that does that. There are tons of great moments like that throughout the entire story. Very early on, basically the day after Goku and Bulma meet, we get this sequence where the Pilaf soldiers are in this ravine fighting for their lives against coyotes, and they're horrified, and you kind of fear for them because you kind of don't because they're basically Team Rocket and they're invincible and all that. But while these characters are having a death-defying adventure and just like shitting their pants, Goku goes out and catches a coyote to eat just so that Bulma can screech about how gross that is, because that's funny. Or how when the Ox King's mountain is on fire and they want to get it back to normal, they recruit Roshi and all of that, but instead of just helping and fixing the problem for his student, Roshi demands this ridiculous payment, and it's just like, oh my god, it's another pervert joke, it's stupid, but they find time to make jokes during this sequence that, like, should be really serious. Or how the fact that the Ox King is viewed as a vicious tyrant, but then when you meet him, he's just like a guy who's really chill and relaxed. You know, and he's very kind to Goku and their friends and everything. Or how Chi-Chi talks about the very serious subject of getting married, and Goku asks if that's food. The balance and the intermingling of the humor and the important stuff, and sometimes even the really dark stuff, is really well handled and really good all the way throughout the story, until about the time when Raditz shows up. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are a couple of jokes in Z, and the Buu Saga makes a very triumphant return to this format, which some people didn't like, but it's hard. it's hard to go from this perfect blend of everything, you know, the humor and the seriousness, and then just jump into something that's just, ooh, big punch, ooh, big And, you know, depending on who you are, every joke might not land. You know, I personally have a big problem with the pervert jokes because they're not jokes, as discussed earlier. But I mean, there are plenty of other things, you know, like Bulma pisses her pants because she gets abducted by a pterodactyl in the first chapter. And on a certain level, it's kind of funny to see a character who was so confident get brought so low. But on another hand, it's just like kind of gross. But overall, I still think it's a really worthwhile read or watch, and you're just gonna have fun with it. The characters are endearing, the situations are fun and hilarious, and there's just a lot to love about this early part of the story. And quite frankly, the humor gets toned down a lot even just after the Pilaf arc. There's still tons of jokes and funny situations, but it ceases to be a parody manga and turns into something that takes itself a lot more seriously. But I kind of miss the parody stuff. It's really good. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next life. Laters. Alright, thank you guys for watching that video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that dumb YouTube stuff. Follow me on all my other social media stuff. I got Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and I have a Patreon, if and only if you have money to burn. And if you do have money to burn, maybe consider donating to an actual charity instead. There are always a few linked in my description, just in case. I mean, I do appreciate it, but there's probably people who can use it more than me. Me and my girlfriend play video games she's never played before on twitch.tv/thegolden every Saturday, sometime after 6 p.m. US Mountain Time. And also I sometimes use that channel to do challenge runs and game creation tutorials. So if you're into any of that, please check that out. Also, if you check out our streams and you like the performance that my girlfriend puts on, she streams by herself on her own channel called Awesome Possum Pie. And be sure to leave positive comments down below for my girlfriend who volunteered to edit my videos for free because she's awesome. And yeah, thanks so much for all of your support. And thanks again for watching.